went good. Learned a ton, and yeah, Brian and I are going to debrief this week to go over kind of how it all went. But we'll start with us talking as well.
Yeah. So you ran your first seminar with us. So
yeah.
In you and I had some conversations along the way. A little bit of inclement weather on the first seminar. So yeah. What's your overall feedback? What went well? What you said you might have some further feedback for me. I'd love to hear it, but I'll let you kind of take it away on what you think went well and what you did that might have gotten good audience participation or engagement. Let's use that word instead.
Yeah, so I guess focusing on your side of the thing, of the marketing and that sort of thing, your landing page was a little different than the seminars in a box that we have from IG. So it was not misleading, but we'll make some adjustments there. We had responses from people about the material from anywhere from you used too much jargon and it was too complex to this was way too basic for me. So, okay. You know, you can't please everybody. So I think we do have a nice mix there of good information. The thing Brian and I are going to be adding for the next one is more information on Canadian pension plan and old age security. We'll get a few slides in there. The atmosphere or just ambiance of Wednesday, I think a lot because of the snowstorm, it was not that upbeat. So Friday we decided, like, how are we going to change this? And so Friday we put some music together. We just had some classic music going and then communicated with people before. And then Wednesday we just kind of had like a mass exodus to leave. And Thursday, people just hung around, had some more coffee, chatted with us, and we were probably another 45 minutes or an hour before we left. So we did some minor tweaks on the slides. We really focused on doing the feedback form. So good. When we switched on the second day, and we'll continue to do this, when I pass it back to Brian, there's 5 slides, and he kind of does the close and call to action. We gathered up the feedback forms at that point. Okay. And so that just made it much, much smoother. So Wednesday, overall good. My first meeting I have is tomorrow at 9 with a gentleman from Wednesday. And we have a couple other really excited people. But I would say as a whole, Thursday just seemed like everybody was engaged. My assistant was kind of watching the crowd on both days. And she says, I'll guarantee you're going to get a lot more on Thursday. So we'll see how it all plays out. You know, the sales cycle, we're probably looking at 2 months or so?
Give or take 2 weeks to 2 months, depend on how motivated they are. They sit down with you or someone like you and say, yep, so let me sign all the documents I want out of there. I've seen that happen. And yep. Other cases, it might stretch out a little bit to that 2 month mark. But, you know, given what they have to move, some decisions. I mean, you've been doing this long enough to know, Jesse, that depending on what they're in, you know, is there a capital gain on that side when they have to sell to move out of it? Also, it's all of those kinds of things. But it might start with some easy stuff, and then as things come in, because you're going to give them straight up advice, right? You're going to be honest and transparent to say, yeah. You know, it's my recommendation that you do this. You do some tax loss selling, whatever it might be, right? I mean, that's what they're coming to you for because they're not getting it elsewhere.
Yeah, and we do have in-kind transfers as well, so we can avoid all those tax issues there. Yeah, one of the ladies I talked to today, I'm really excited about. She's just ready to move, and she had all the closing questions in the conversation. She said, "How do I move? How much is it going to cost?" and all that good stuff. So we're going to see them in January. So the only other thing, maybe ideal timing is probably not end of November, just when Christmas is wrapping up, but any good salesman will utilize that as an opportunity to do a soft close or, book 6 weeks in advance, that sort of thing. So I'd be surprised if we get too many more in December, but it might lead for a really, really good January.
Yeah, good. And how does your year work? Is it calendar year or is it a different fiscal?
Yeah, we're calendar. Yeah.
Calendar year. Okay. So yeah, it might be a good start to your year, right?
Exactly. That's not a bad thing.
So my old life, I mean, it was a bank year, so November 1 to October 31st. And the good advisors knew that if they got the first quarter, that second quarter, a lot of them were, I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but a lot of them were taking a little bit extra time off over third quarter which is the
Sure.
summer,
Yep.
because they got everything in, landed early. There's all the commissions and fees were coming in rather than waiting for the end. So yeah, you'll do it the right way. So we'll come to some of the other numbers. I know you sent me some stuff with some numbers, so thanks. So let's go back and I'll let you kind of take it and tell me what you thought of the experience with us, Gustin Quon. Since the moment you and I started to engage, Brian put your name out. You were the first one to pick up on it. So
Yeah.
what can you say about your experience with me, with us, our firm? I'd love to hear what went well, and if there's any do differently, I'm open to feedback.
Yeah. Okay. Other comments we got from some of the, I'm just trying to look at our seminar form. A couple people said they didn't get the email as a follow-up. So I'm not sure if you have the same issues. Like at Investors Group, we sometimes have emails just get blocked or they go to junk mail and stuff like that. So I'd assume that you have a pretty robotic system as far as sending those emails. So there's a couple issues with that. And then there was one lady that said it was very hard to hear the person that called. But I mean, that was the only kind of mentions of it. But, I really do applaud a firm like yours when we can have a snowstorm and 15 inches of snow and you still get, 25, 30 people in the room. So when that, I don't know if I had a chance to tell you, when that snowstorm was happening, I said to Andrea, my assistant, like, if we get 5 people, I think this is going to be okay. So, you can't predict weather, you can't manage it. So.
Yeah. So just to your comment, the note you sent me, and in your note, you'll remember you put in that comment about not getting reminders. So I sent that to both Kyle Gustin, our president, and David Quon, our founding partner. And
Okay.
there's already been discussions on it today. As a matter of fact, Sean, who's the techie behind all this, came into my office and he asked me if I've had any campaigns where there's some, problems of this nature. I heard it one other. I won't say it's systemic.
Okay.
But there's been a couple where they're saying they didn't get the reminders. So what Sean has told me, and just to give you a little bit of background, when they put their email in that field,
yes,
if they add a space like .com and they hit the space bar, that space kicks it out. It can't recognize that. So here's me, the non-techie guy, right? Well, Sean, can't we just have something in that pops up and says, make sure you do? Well, he says, then all the good ones, they might take something out. And so there's something there that we're going to see if we can help. Sean came up with, he's got some thoughts. Let me just say he's got some thoughts, but it is about this .com, hit the space bar. That space now kicks it out from being an auto-generated email out because it won't recognize the space. But that's for us to figure out.
Okay. There was 1 or 2 emails that were just entered in wrong as well. Like, so when Andrew was checking them in. So, I mean, that pretty much answers the issue why they didn't get, an email. But for the most part, it was pretty good. And this is out of 60 people getting 2 or 3 mentions of that. So overall, really liked the way you kind of drove us through or directed us through the month. And I mean, the hardest part about creating a seminar is what you guys do, and that's putting bums in the seat. So I thought it was a good job. Seminars are a lot of work for advisors, Brian and I, having to go through the slides and of course me getting familiar of the presentation. So it's nice to have kind of a weight off our shoulders. I know you came up with 2 different structures for costing. For IG, I think there's one where it's kind of we did the all-encompassing, I believe, and then the other one is where we're doing the follow-up calls and that sort of thing. Going forward, we would just stick with exactly what we did with you this time. Yep. And that leaves the risk or the weight on your shoulders, so to speak, to make sure they're in the seats. So, if we have a seminar and there's 10 people and we did the follow-up, well, whose fault is it? Is it ours or yours or whatever? And obviously this system works, so we would just stick with that.
Yeah, our standard practice is because the whole thing about creating a seminar, you and I had spoke, there's a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of heavy lifting that goes on. It's the who do we contact? Who's making the phone calls? Then you book the venue, then you get the follow-up because you want to make sure people show up. That's time out of your day. That's time out of Andrea's day. I've been there. It's time consuming. And there's lots of other things that you'd like to be doing, Jesse, than doing that. And
Yes.
I'm sure the stuff that you're giving to Andrea, she's got stuff that you're asking her to do. So same thing. So we'll continue to do that. We have another client that they're taking the lead and they're making phone calls. But
Okay.
that's up to them. They're making the phone calls. They felt that they could do a better job by calling somebody. But then it's not as well, in this case, wouldn't be as anonymous, right? But anyhow, we leave it up to them. We want to continue like this. I think it's a good model. It's worked prior to IG coming on board with us. So let us continue to run that ball. We've got people that are in the position. We've got automated processes that do it. You don't. It's an email or it's a full typing in all the emails and doing a blind carbon copy. And God forbid you should not blind carbon copy. And then you'll have a whole other issue on your hands when you start sharing email addresses, because I can attest that happened in my old life where a lot of people got called up on the carpet for doing that, because that's the last thing you want to happen. So leave that to us, and we'll continue to do well going forward.
Sure. I think the only reason other people are trying that is probably a cost containment thing. We realize that the people that always do the same job should continue to do the same job. So there's no use passing off to our team. And Andrew's working with existing clients too. So, the time constraints are there.
Yeah. So if you had to, if you're thinking about your other advisors, you were out early and others are going to come forward. They're going to say, oh, Jesse was first. Hey, Jesse, it's so-and-so. It's Colin, down the hall from you. I'm across the other side of Calgary. What did you think? Did you like it? What would you say if other advisors, wanted to know, what might you tell your fellow colleagues having gone up first?
Probably that the heavy lifting is done by this company. It's a bit of a cost out front, but as long as you structure it right, there's no reason you shouldn't be successful with it. So, I'm really happy to talk to you in 6 weeks or 2 months and tell you the results. We're going to be tracking this quite carefully for our own accounting and making sure that, it's profitable, which I don't see any reason it won't. It's just so early in the setup. Like you were in the industry, so the people that say they're going to transfer $1 million don't, and then mom and pop that drive by in the old beat up Ford have $1 million sitting in their bank account. So it'll just be a matter of time to suss that all out. We're doing some calling this weekend, but to get back to your or this week, to get back to your question, overall a very, very positive experience. It's tricky for you. I'm very comfortable with my public speaking, and you did kind of a prep, which was a good little refresher. Some people might need a bit of that. If I was to look at what we could improve on this whole presentation, probably be on our side as far as presenting and making sure, again, the atmosphere is a really good and relaxed one. The venue was awesome. Mount Royal was fantastic, and judging from what I don't set up the golf course country club meetings that he does, but he says it was very, very affordable utilizing Mount Royal.
Yes.
And so they were good. They had everything set up. It was on the second floor. There was elevators right there, bathrooms right outside. So really good setup.
Perfect. So given our discussion, prepping you, doing this with every advisor, whether it's IG or any one of my clients, I certainly test how experienced they are at presenting, and I don't spend a lot of time. If they're good, I'm going to say go with it. My focus is, how are you going to start?
Yeah.
How are you going to start? And more importantly, how are you going to end to create scarcity? And I'm spending a little bit more time on the end, because you talked about a call to action. So maybe you can help me. What did Brian's call to action sound like?
We started with those forms and just saying that we've only got a few open days here. We're booking right away. We were talking about Monte Carlo and the financial planning process. So just said it's so important to get a second opinion. And everybody I was talking to, when they were hesitant, there was a lot of people after the second meeting that just wanted to talk to me, and I think get a one-on-one approach. And I said, you know what, worst case scenario is sit down with us and I say everything's okay. That is the worst thing that's going to happen. So I think that is one of the things that we're going to integrate into the actual presentation, opposed to saying that one-on-one. But Brian just said it's important to sit down. There was nothing really overly flashy. Talked about iProfile. That's the investments that he uses, as well as you need to have a plan going into retirement. And you've seen the pre-retirement retirees slideshow. That's really the drive behind it. So yeah, we're just following kind of the IG protocol. We really wanted to make sure we followed everything that you suggested, as well as head office, to make sure we're taking out all the variables if this isn't successful. But yeah, like I said, a snowstorm and 60 or 70 people, we did okay.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, so that's a good feedback. Thank you. Anything that we could do differently? And be open and transparent if there's something. I mean, I'm good with feedback. I just want to make sure we get better as we move forward. And if there's more communication, if it was too much, did you get, we shared the spreadsheet at the end with you. And I did tell the story about I was driving. I saw Jesse's note. It was urgent. I pulled over and thank goodness Sean was still there. So that was good. Yeah. Anything else that you can think in the way of feedback?
No, everything's fantastic. I imagine most advisors will continue to use that. Like, we have such a great excuse with the snowstorm. For the people that didn't show up, we'll still follow up with them. I'd assume that's kind of standard protocol, that you want to try and squeeze out as much potential meetings out of this seminar, regardless if they didn't come. And who knows, maybe there was family situations that caused them not to come. No, I think you're always trying to be a perfectly run machine, and I think you're very close to being there. Okay. I don't really have any complaints or constructive criticism. Everything was good. You're very hands-on.
Okay.
Yeah, you want somebody always there if you need something, and we we had that situation, unfortunately, and you were there, so I appreciate that. Yeah, I've got nothing but 5 stars. If you're looking at the old survey situation, it was really good, and I am excited. I assume you're going to be looking at other colleagues of mine to work with, but that March, April time, we hope we can set up more.
Okay.
And really, just instead of the summer where I love golfing, but perhaps I can do a little more productive work opposed to try and be a scratch golfer.
Okay. So thanks for that. Appreciate that. Hands-on. I'm certainly becoming, early days in the feedback. I'll just be honest with you. I mean, some of your colleagues said we didn't get, and we've kind of fixed things here. You get feedback, you got to be able to zig and zag when you have to. We're a small firm and we can do that. We don't get caught up. I mean, my ex-bank days, it sometimes was tough to move a big ship. We're a very small fishing boat and we can move pretty quick. So things like more regular feedback on the updated numbers, So, Sean and I have worked that out. He's so busy. I'm now taking any client I have, and when I go in and pull up, I'll send the numbers to the individuals. If it's just that numbers, 78 registrants, X amount bringing spouses for a total of this. When, with IG, it's the spreadsheet the day or 2 or 3 prior, depending if we closed it off. Yours was like wildfire. So sometimes we have to close these off earlier. We could have a big mess here where so many people show up, the room can't accommodate. It is a free seminar and it is limited seating. So I've coached some of your colleagues through getting over the, being sympathetic and being more empathetic to them not being able to fit them in because they came late.
Yeah.
But some of them are losing sleep. And I get that because you're in the business. I was in the business. I still am in the business. I want to say yes. I always want to say yes. It's easy to say yes. It's not so easy to say no.
Right.
Sorry, can't do that. Can't fit you in, etc. So we've taken that, and I'll continue to do that. You made a comment on 6 weeks to 2 months when we talk again. I'm going to stay close to this. So I'm going to reach out to you the turn of the new year, middle of January, end of January, whenever it is. It just might be, hey Jesse, where are you at? We spoke, early December. You booked some meetings. Because I'm interested in that stuff, given where I came from, right? Want to see you be successful, want to see you land, some good quality business so that you can say, wow, it's worth it. I'm not going to land all 50 that were there, but I landed 8 key clients, and those 8 key clients have actually paid for this seminar 3 times, 4 times over. That's what I want to hear. And so that's my interest more so because of where I came from and the connection that you and I have made and all the phone calls we've had. So, sure. I'll certainly do that. And, offline, I'll get more specifics from you on the stats. We don't have to go through that, on the phone. We'll we'll find out, deeper on the meetings. One question I do want to ask you, in the feedback form, there's that section in the middle that has the client comment on their net asset level or investable assets.
Yeah.
Did you capture that information, or did they complete it?
Not as many as we'd like. We used a bit of our management fund funding to pay for this, and we need those statistics. If I was to do the feedback form again, that's what you'd sent to me. It's a bit redundant. So what we do is we're going to adjust some of that information. Probably just ask for the postal code. And then the client's name. Like, we don't need the phone number and the email address again because we already have that.
Okay, good idea.
Right? And then, so the net worth, we also did minor adjustments. Like we said, less than 250 to 500, 500 to $1 million, and $1 million to 3, and 3 plus. And so we got everybody in that band. Actually, and remind me to talk about the landing page here before we get off the phone. But yeah, if we could, I think when you give less on a feedback form, like if you make it only a half a page in length, we get everything filled out. So there was different people that put, different amounts of information, but we didn't get a whole lot of written responses either. People just kind of clicked through them. They wanted the door prizes. We gave away a couple jackets, as well as some blankets, different things like that. So that helped getting the seminar feedback forms back. And Thursday we said we were 100% in receiving those, so we obviously made the necessary adjustments. And then Wednesday wasn't as good. We got a lot less.
Okay, but good feedback. So what I'd ask for you to do is how you end up changing or reducing what's on that feedback form. Keep me in the loop.
Sure.
Keep me in the loop. Like if you come up with something that say, hey, we think this would work better, there's an opportunity to share because you have other colleagues doing this. And I think you strike me as an individual that you want colleagues to do well. You all are under the IG banner. I understand that, it's your independent business under the IG banner, but it's all about helping people, right? And if you see something that works or feels that it could serve itself better, I agree. Okay.
Yeah. So sorry, my phone's going to be going here. I hope it's not too bad for you.
No, it's good.
But the one thing too, if you could send us the landing page ahead of time, or basically the link, and then we can make sure that we're covering everything, because we want to be able to deliver on what is advertised, right? And so seeing that, Brian and I probably should have taken a look a little bit prior to the meeting. But the good thing is, and a few clients I've sent them emails, you wanted specific information on this, and so here you go. But we're just going to include that in our presentation. And again, that's more on our side than yours. So yeah, just keeping that synergy between your marketing and what we're delivering to clients it's important. So
great feedback. So I'm glad we stuck around a little longer for you to get to that, because that's important. Yeah. I know there was some things done at the IG head office level and with David Quon, one of our founding partners, about what that would look like. And I haven't heard that. I've heard I'd like to see it sooner. So thank you. It's starting to happen as soon as Sean builds it, and we're actually building those internally now. I'm sending it out to the advisor to say, here's what it looks like. But I agree with you about the connection to what you're presenting and what's on there. I did hear feedback from one of my colleagues, IG, another part of the country, that there seemed to be a bit of a misalignment what the presentation was and what the landing page said. Yeah. So I agree with you. Both parties need to be on page, or at least shared early enough to say, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't align to what we're presenting, or we're not doing this. I think one of the feedbacks was about the 5 tax strategies, or something that's aligned to the presentation. Is that right?
Yeah, there's nothing about that. Yeah.
Okay. So great feedback.
Yeah. So I don't know where that was cut and pasted from, but another compliment for you guys. The demographic, or the people that were coming, was pretty much bang on. There was a few retirees already, which is just fine as well, because obviously the asset level is there because they're retired. Is that all from Facebook?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I had a call with a client out of Houston this morning, and she's used digital marketing in the past and didn't want it to be what she experienced because it wasn't good. So I had Chris Laubenstein, our SEO guy, and he knows how all this works and the way the geo-targeting starts and how we use all sorts of techie jargon he talked about on the call. She was very happy that we do it differently.
Yeah.
Very happy because she's had room full before, and 65 to 70% didn't show up. And it was a lot of do-it-yourselfers and people that she wouldn't want as clients. And again, ended by saying, I'm happy you're different and you're using different things, because Facebook has made some changes. Won't get into, Cambridge Analytica, she brought up all that stuff.
Right. Yeah,
we still have a bit. Now, Cambridge Analytica was more on the political side, but what Chris told her really satisfied her request for, are we different? And given that you've said this about demographic, other clients I've had say the room was perfect. It's the exact client I'm looking for. So that's good news. So thank you for that. It's working. And maybe that sets us apart to others that are just finding people that want to sign up when we're going that extra level, 45 to 65, looking at what they follow. I may have said to you, my advisor here locally ran his seminar the weekend before last. I was getting his ads.
Yes. Yes.
And I said, his name is Lyle. I'm already his client. I said, Lyle, I'm a perfect client for you. He says, oh yeah, tell me about it. I said, I'm getting your ads. I know it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
perfect.
Truth be told, he might have not, given where I live in a bit of an older area. It's changing over now, but I know he wouldn't have targeted my postal code. Let me just put it that way. I know he wouldn't have targeted my postal code, but I got his ads.
Yeah. Huh. Well, you're doing something well, very well over there. So we're happy to continue whenever that may be. We're gonna, the beautiful thing is you're always looking for new prospects, and I think we've got a month or two wrapped up here.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, we're a little bit over time, so thank you for your time, Jesse. We'll follow up on more of the specifics, because I want to fill out, just kind of, you give it to me an email, I'll transfer it to the form that we send in that starts to fill a spreadsheet for IG. And I just wanted to ask that piece around the investable assets, because I'll say to you that I'm similar feedback. It's not all getting filled out. So, but I also know IG wants to track that stuff. So what's the best way to get at it? Yeah, we'll think it through. I mean, it's not an answer I need right now, but I think they're going to say, we put that on there. How do we get people to fill that out? So you start to see, those levels, or is it something you find out in the meeting and then do it after the fact?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for your time. You're cutting out a bit there, but I got all the audio. So.
Okay, good. All right. Thanks, Jesse. Have a great day.
Yeah, yourself as well. Thanks for everything.
Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Bye.